sugar beet by rail. Welcome to this history and freight load suggestion video. I have Bognor Regis Chris's Engage to thank for getting me researching into this interesting seasonal load that most rural lines in the UK will have handled in some form. In the UK, the sugar beet harvest gets underway in October every year. It takes approximately 7 months from planting to harvesting beet, and lots of work goes into those 7 months for the grower. Top right now is a link to a modern day sugar beet story that you might like, but stay with me until the end. Chris asked specifically about the traffic on the Midhurst line to Chichester, so my story will focus on that. I also have some real gems of information and photos from retired drivers that worked the line in the 60s. You have been watching the Adams A12 or Jubilee hauling a set-down freight for the Midhurst line, probably from Eastleigh. While the A12s are London South Western locos, they did make occasional appearances in SR days at least. Built as far back as 1887, these venerable locos got their nickname as a result of Queen Victoria's Golden Jubilee. They were powerful, capable locomotives and formed the mainstay for many shorter goods trains. Several stations and goods yards along the route dealt with sugar beet, Selham and Fittleworth, where records tell us that 1,000 tons of sugar beet was loaded onto trains after the harvest. Our train has now arrived at its destination and will drop off a small load of house bricks, 2 coal wagons and 2 log wagons. Next, our loco will head off and pick up 7 well-loaded wagons full of sugar beet, together with a single petrol tank wagon and 2 Southern Region open wagons. Once underway, our train will work to Chichester and then on to Eastleigh. You might ask why the wagons used are private owner coal wagons. Well, when the coal merchant was not using these wagons, renting them to the railway to be used brought a helpful income. But given the harvest is done in October, I can't help thinking that the merchants are going to want their wagons back very soon in order to deliver their coal. So while we watch our train a while longer, I'll explain that next up we will look at sugar beet traffic under BR. So under BR the Midhurst line was starting to suffer, but the beet traffic carried on. In fact, I'm told that both Bosom and Barnum stations had sugar beet loaded to wagons in their yards, still all by hand, and it must have been back-breaking work. We will start at the yard, where this time we have one of the famous Q1 class locomotives. She's just shunting her train of 8 loaded 16-ton mineral wagons that are being used now for sugar beet. Remember that during World War II all the private owner wagons were commandeered by the government for war work. After the war, many merchants found themselves with the new 16-ton steel wagons. Now while the loco shunts and makes ready to leave for Eastleigh via Chichester, let's have the words of drivers that work the line, and I'm delighted to say that we will see some never before seen photos taken by retired driver Biff Manville back in 1961 and 62. We used to work sugar beet on the Midhurst line. Most of it was picked up at Salem Station. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, Basingstoke crews used to relieve Eastleigh crews on the sugar beet trains from Chichester. We'd work them to Worcester Shrub Hill, leaving the train in the sidings. Usually a train of empties back, but sometimes light engine. Normally about 45 16-ton mineral wagons with a brake van on the rear. Just think about that, 45 wagons, no brakes, apart from the brake van on the back, the loco's brake. How skilled were these drivers? From another driver, I work the front part of a few of those diagrams, prepare an S15 or 73 standard and work a goods to Chichester, turn on the triangle and then in the season work a train of beet back to Eastleigh. The weight of the stuff seemed very variable, not sure how or if they used to weigh it. I distinctly remember working back one day with an 800. She was steaming well, but going over the deviation from Fareham, we breasted the summit so slowly that my mate had a short conversation with a P-way man walking the track. I think the weight depended on when they harvested the buggers. If it was wet after heavy rain, the weight must have been doubled by the mud. On another occasion we worked through Basingstoke with a Midland Black AF, and I've still got the faint scar to prove that one. Running down from Lichfield, my mate got me to screw the handbrake on to hold the train back a bit. Going over Battledown flyover, he said to take the handbrake off. I've been quite enthusiastic in my application of said brake, so he applied the loco brake to help me get it off. He then released the loco brake, and just as I let go of my handhold, we had a snatch, and I went up against the side injector steam pipe with my forearm sustaining a nasty burn. So just remember, when he's talking about the brakes on the loco and holding the wagons back, there were no through brakes. These were unfitted, and a snatch was when the wagons had stretched out and then pulled on the loco all of a sudden, and you would get quite a nasty jolt. You could even break a coupling. Right, now on to Biff Manville's photos. Hi Mike, here's my photos I took with my cheap camera in 1961 and 2. First is Midhurst. I climbed the signal gantry to get this one. Second is Salem. We had just picked up wagons there full of chestnut fencing. Three is Petworth. you can see some of the grain hoppers on our train and in the yard. There was a mill at Petworth near the station. Now you know why the Q1 here has 3 grain hoppers within its train. Forest Fittleworth, we used to drop off coal wagons there. These are my photos. I've never shown them before and I'm glad someone can see them now. 5. Running round at Midhurst with a Class 33. Biff with the Crompton. Lastly, Biff's driver coming out of Midhurst Tunnel after Biff went ahead to get this shot. Now on to another memory from another driver. I remember these, Mike. I did one with an ex-Great Western 2800 class from Eastleigh to Didcot, where we were relieved by Western men. Very heavy train. Have also had one of the southern-based 9Fs on these, relieved the train on the old upslope goods loop. Huge thanks to Biff Manville, Jim Rode, David Knight, Chris Richardson and Bob Cartwright for their amazing memories and great respect for their skills. Our Q1 is now hard at it heading for Eastleigh, which was and still is a major goods handling and sorting yard. Not so major these days perhaps. Like I said near the start, almost all rural locations in England would have handled this important goods traffic. You can get the load scene from the 10 Commandments shop, and a link to my video about these will appear in the top right just about now. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks to everyone for helping me make this video. Please respect the copyright of the included photos. Take care now.